Welcome back, everybody. I'm here now. I've got functional internet. That's a nice change. You've cursed me, Jamato. What is it? It's your internet. Your internet's been good for a while, but clearly
Yeah,
you've thrown it
I
over.
yeah,
Anyway,
I think
before we get into that, because we've actually got someone here, we ought to talk to more than just about our own, technical issues. We've got Fantasy here, of course, as the jungler of Lucent. Commiserations, my man. Unfortunate game.
Yeah, well, that didn't go too well.
So things actually started out okay for you. You got the cool kind of counter pick going on with Yorick top, and then the bot lane dive kind of got a bit messed up on the other side by natives, and things looked kind of up. But Snille seemed to get a lot rolling on the Jhin side. Can you tell me what was kind of happening in the side lanes where the snowball was happening? Was it just you missing the jungle timings, or was it a little bit of communication issues? What kind of led to the snowball from your end, or at least what your perspective is on it?
I mean, in the top lane specifically, I think, we were communicating that he was going top, but I was just off with the timing, so I was on camps when he was ganking. Well, I should have just dropped the camp and covered for my lane.
Gotcha.
Um, so yeah, that wasn't really the best, I guess.
yeah, and actually to sort of talk on that, on maybe sort of talk on the early game plan. What was the early game plan for you guys with this draft? Specifically, I think probably talking more towards that Yorick pick. Was the idea to play around it? Was it to sort of leave it in isolation and just make sure that the Xin Zhao didn't get to attack it too much? What were
No,
you guys looking to play towards? Was it the bot side? Was it that Yorick pick? Because obviously it's not something you typically see in pro play.
yeah, we picked Öster because it's flexible, so we can choose if we want to play top or bot.
Mhm.
And the idea was to get the Yorick rolling so he can just perma split push and open up the map. Unfortunately, he got really behind, so that didn't really end up working as we wanted to. And then the whole plan just kind of crashed down on us.
Sure enough. I mean, credit where credit's due to when that Baron take was going and you guys were contesting around that, we did actually see like the Strolling get like 3 towers in a row. What were you guys kind of talking about during that kind of Baron take? Because obviously things had kind of fallen apart a little bit at that point, but that was probably a moment where things could maybe have turned around a little bit. So what was your kind of communication at that point when the Baron flip was going on?
So I think that was the play where Fuyu died in mid lane. So we were like
Yes.
one man down. So we just wanted to stall as much time as possible for Castoon to get, as much gold back into our team as possible. It was kind of hard to steal that Baron. We didn't really have much vision. So, we bought as much time as we could, basically.
Sure. All right then. Last question then from us before we let you go. Obviously still very much in contention towards the sort of top end of the standings right now. We're coming in to the last 3 weeks of plays. What's the end goal for you and Lucent? Where are you kind of eyeing in terms of playoffs as a squad and as a team?
I think, as a team, our expectations is to make playoffs, of course.
Of course.
But we want to win all our games so we can get second place. That's obviously the goal to win all of the rest of our games. So I would say that, of course. But at least playoffs is our expectations.
There's the minimum, there's the maximum. Good to hear it. Thank you so much for coming and chatting with us, Fantasy. Wish you luck in the rest of the split as playoffs begin to loom, and we will speak to you soon, hopefully on the winner's side of the bracket. But that does mean we're going to cut to a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have game 2 of the day. It's another banger, of course, so we'll see you for that one. See you in a few. Welcome back, everybody, to Division 2. We've got ourselves a very intriguing matchup here for our next game. So it's two of our lower-end teams in AaB and Verdant, but the reason this one is intriguing, Jamada, is that it is getting very close to last chance saloon for both teams. If they want to make the run towards playoffs, there are 6 games remaining, and for Verdant, they're 3 games off the current cutoff for playoffs, which is 6 wins. For AaB, they're 4 off. It's doable, but it's beginning to look pretty damn challenging.
Yeah, I think, obviously specifically for AaB, I think for Verdant, obviously, given the pre-split expectations and such, it's a much bigger failure to not make that playoff spot at all. And like you say, I think currently 3 behind for Verdant, obviously 4 behind for AaB, and that's just to get to 6th place, and obviously that can continue to rise if teams above them continue to win. So being right next to each other in the standings, 2 and 9, or I think 2 and 10. Rather, and 3 and 9 for Verdant, it's a must-win to at least give these guys any semblance of hope at trying to make a run super late into the split.
And Verdant currently on a 4-loss streak. AaB currently on a 6-loss streak. One of those loss streaks is ending today. And I will say, the last time I came in to cast Division 2, I cast AaB's first win in Div 2, and then I clearly gave them a buff, and they kind of fell away again when I left for a couple of weeks. And maybe this is their chance. Maybe this is their moment.
Yeah, potentially. And I think looking at the other side,
thank you for moving on from that.
I have to. I think looking at the other side for Verdant as well, this is effectively their air quotes easiest game for their run of form or run of schedule, because after this, Fulham on Wednesday, next week it's light side and into natives, and then they get London United, and then they finish out the split with
Monster.
So
schedule.
Yeah, it's a really, really tough run of schedule. And one thing that I've just been reminded of as well, relegations exist in Div 2. It's not like Div 1. So finishing bottom 2 is actually problematic.
You can't go up, but you can certainly go down.
You can definitely go down, right? So returning to the draft here, Jinx actually was removed away, and there wasn't a first pick of Felios here. But AaB, they go for the rise, something that we do very commonly see first picked at the moment. It's a very strong mid laner, can cheat the priority, can get a lot of priority in the early levels, and it makes playmaking very, very easy from level 1, and then especially once you hit that level 6 to have Realm Warp. Very, very strong at doing that. And for Verdant, the immediate response, Thresh, plus, of course, the Jarvan. So early pressure can come in. Sibyl's actually here for Verdant in the jungle, which is something I've just recognized here as a substitute. I'm not sure if Sybil was here on Thursday. I didn't quite get to look into Verdant's game, admittedly. But with the Thresh being there, you would expect the Felios gets locked in if AaB go down this Hecarim plus what I would expect to be an ADC of their own, realistically, in this point in time. Looking at a Jarvan plus, of course, the Thresh, maybe look for something a little mobile. It's a bit hard. You only really have something like the Ezreal. But instead, they go for the Karma.
To reference as well, because Hankett was playing on day 1 of last week, but then it was Sybil who came in the day after. Didn't have the best time on the Gragas, but clearly decided to stick with him coming into week 7 here. But all the while time getting Bobas onto the Hecarim, which I know a lot of junglers have really, really rated as an increasingly high priority jungler, one of the heaviest carries that's available in the jungle pool right now, considering a lot of the general gist and the general style has been more towards engaging champions like the Jarvan or the Xin Zhao, which is good early duelists, but you kind of fall back into utility and frontline as the game goes on. Hecarim is a little bit more of a go button, a little bit more of a teamfight monster. Response, though, was Karma alongside that Hecarim, and it did leave the Aphelios to go alongside the Thresh. And Draconium and Winter playing one of the old school Aphelios bot lanes that does get a lot of priority, has a lot of safety, and a lot of shove in those early levels.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Verdant doing the right thing, removing away Jhin, another facilitating AD carry that can just kind of sit back, provide that oversight with the curtain call as the Hecarim dives in with any bodies that he decides to take with him, whether Rise wants to get involved as well in the backline. And I'd expect that Ezreal ban, just for the simplicity of we don't want to have Ezreal in the game whilst we're playing Jarvan. And of course, Ezreal plus the Karma can be a lot of poke in the bottom lane, even if you have the Thresh to try and, provide some kind of setup. Just the isolated 2v2 can be very, very irritating if their sentences aren't connecting. So I definitely understand the ban there from Verdant.
Absolutely.
And I think for AaB now, probably just looking for another mid laner. Don't necessarily want to have this Rise play into. Maybe something like Tinder if they're scared of something more aggressive in the early stages.
Okay.
Could have even been the Orianna. But yeah, the
Orianna,
Tryndamere from Valkyrie is what ends up going through here. Now for Verdant, pick of the litter, really, for Ericsson, into whatever he wants into this Rise. As highlighted, Syndra, Orianna, both options. I would probably lean on the Orianna. Could even go for something like the Ahri, yeah, just to
Make
kind
for
of
a
dive
big
in.
pick comp right here. And of course, it's
Yeah.
definitely been an increasingly high priority champion. There it is locked in. Tends to be the Everfrost build, much to Nymera's wrath. He much prefers the Luden's build for the record. But Everfrost has been a go-to. A lot of players doing really, really disgusting things on it. Look to Faker, look to Showmaker, look to Lava, look to Rookie. If anybody was watching the game today between BLG and Victory 5, Rookie versus Uzi, Rookie had a Stormer on the Ahri, so very high priority mid lane. Ericsson's going to have a look at it. The response, there was a Caitlyn alongside the Karma, and that is a long, long way down the priority, and that is now a very high focus bot lane draft from AaB.
Yeah, and I mean, if they round it out with the Ornn, that just says to me, okay, this is full bottom side that we're playing into. We're going to smash this 2v2. We're going to have mid lane priority in most cases than not. And we're just going to play to scale on the top side. Go down to the bottom side. Make sure Aphelios doesn't get to play the game. Nah, pretty much accomplishes the same thing, but this is more about, you know, those sort of smaller brief windows of engages or sort of return engages from the Mega Gnar. And then obviously the laning phase is going to be typically good into most of what Valkyrie can pull out of his champion pool into this, and he's going to go for the Aatrox. So again, a lot of what Verdant probably will end up doing is moving forward into this AaB comp. If we're talking about team fights, it's going to be pretty much front to back, but more along the lines of dive. If Valkyrie can find some flank angles to get, you know, high value target access a little quicker than having to be on the front line, then you'll definitely prefer that. But that's what I'm looking towards for Verdant here. A lot of options across the board, top to bottom, right? Set up in every single lane. It's more about what Verdant really want to do into this Caitlyn Karma lane. Do you want to try and, you know, stimmy the bleeding immediately? What I would really like to see is some great adaptation from Civil. You're on the red side, do red buff into a bottom side level 2 guy.
Give me a level 2
commonly. We see it so commonly, not only into Enchanter lanes, but I think into Caitlyn lanes, it absolutely breaks the tempo of the lane. Even if you don't necessarily get anything from it, you break up the tempo of that, you know, first wave, that second wave of like slow stack into crash into dive. I think even just breaking that apart is valuable here for Sybil. It does mean that Bobass will probably get a free roam of, you know, top to bot full clear or bot to top full clear, whatever he wants to do, probably top to bot. But at the end of the day, I think if you can try and stop that immediate pounding that is the bottom side of Karma Caitlyn, I think it provides a lot for this bottom side here.
Absolutely true. I think every time we've seen Caitlyn level 2 ganks towards the bot lane, if you can at least blow the summoners, they can't play as aggressively. They can't look to be the pressure lane. 'Cause you don't really necessarily have a kill threat as that lane, but you sure as hell have poke, you sure as hell have wave shove, and the idea is you get that wave in a tower and you just keep it there. You never get to leave a tower, and once it's under tower, it ain't going anywhere until somebody leaves the lane.
Yeah, exactly. And there's no sustain, right, in the Aphelios lane. Once you lose Severum, that's it. And even Severum in the early stages is not exactly.
You need to get access to the wave, right? You got to walk up and just eat a mantra Q. It's like I have lost all the health I was supposed to have lifestealed back up.
Exactly right. You know, Severum. I don't want to say it's his. I think all of his guns, bar Calibrum, actually have a very low range. I think it's only Calibrum where he gets to.
Calibrum's the only long range one. Yeah, yeah.
Remotely
all the others have
range.
the same basic range.
Base range, yeah.
The range.
So yeah, Calibrum obviously, like we're saying, provides the longest range. If you want to get lifesteal back, you got to swap over to the red gun, assuming you have the ammunition to do it, and try and vamp up. Which, as highlighted, is going to be very difficult. I think, in a way, it's going to suck, but you might have to sack this bottom side if you can't actually find anything. I think the top lane matchup is something you can play towards inside the Aatrox, but again, the long range of, you know, Caitlyn, Karma being able to peel back, it's going to be very difficult to play around. If they do get ahead, fortunately, you do have the likes of the Jarvan to try and find some form of lockdown, and things like Ericsson on the Ahri can follow up to secure that. But again, for AaB, I think it's a very strong draft to come out with here. You've got probably mid lane priority for the first 6 levels guaranteed. Ryze typically can just expend his mana bar to get priority whenever he wants into most mid lane matchups.
This adaptation though. Check Ahri's inventory.
Ah, yes. All right. Yeah.
I really like that.
Yeah, I've actually forgotten this. Minion Dematerializer.
Minion Dematerializer. Sorry, I thought I was going to give you an easy setup, but instead it's like,
no.
I forgot the item name.
I forgot the name because it just doesn't show up too often. But this is, like you say, this is a fantastic adaptation. So what this means is level 3, Ericsson's going to be able to delete the cannon minion and effectively get first move onto a side lane if he so needs it. Or more importantly, what I think it does it denies Blueben the opportunity to get a free first move into a side lane. So what Blueben might actually find a little more success doing here is maybe just getting a level 2 wave crash on the tower, so that once Verdant's cannon wave shows up in the mid lane, it's still technically underneath the tower, and you can maybe look to just hard shove it. It does, set yourself up to maybe get ganked by Sybil, but I think it's maybe the best way to play around it, assuming he's looking into it. As Ericsson just trying to abuse the electrocute trade damage in the early stages. But of course, you have to remember, Ahri doesn't have the highest base HP these days. I think it got nerfed with all of the changes.
It did. So, of course, she gets a lot more healing now in team fights, of course, with the passive changes. It means that effectively the way you want to play Ahri these days is use a health bar as a resource in dives, because her health bar goes right back to full the moment you get a kill. You get the kill and she's perfectly fine. Like, there's Triumph on steroids with the way it works right now on her passive, the Essence left. But with a level 1 W start as well, you can be very obnoxious with those electrocute trades, and you can see control over the wave right now actually going to Ericsson.
Here we go.
And the level 2 gank is here. The ward that was placed early by Ruby and Turn has gone down. That means the gank is going to come through. Peels over Peacemaker is down. And they're going to see whether they can get the flash out. They're going to try and walk it through. There's the flash from the Caitlyn. That's what you were looking for.
Yeah, at least if you can do that, because now the wave... This feels a little worse. Even though Sybil traded a lot of HP for it, it doesn't really matter. I think now Draconium and Winter, they can play out this lane, even a little more aggressively if they find the opportunity to get a death sentence in to Ribery. Cleanse will have to be blown immediately to stop that engage coming through. Otherwise, you're just going to be up on the combat summoners, and you should win out more often than not. So great adaptation from Sybil. Like we've called out before, we see it very frequently with not only Enchanter lanes, but especially Caitlyn lanes, as Valkyrie... Gonna eat the bad end of this Mega Gnar trade. Can maybe hit a dark spot or two, as Gunkus not too fussed about walking back into his face.
It turns out Mega Gnar's base stats means he can tank that when it's only a Doran's shield in inventory right now. Charm lands onto Blueben, who is not best pleased at that outcome. But otherwise, game relatively even early game, but at least Verdant got what they were looking for mostly in the bot side. It's not everything. They didn't get every summoner. Tunstall got his flash, of course, and it didn't even force Reaper to back, actually, which is probably more problematic, but they haven't been able to shove the wave into tower either, which is where the Caitlyn wants the wave, as we said in draft.
Yes, exactly. And if there's one thing, I learned a lot about Caitlyn whilst I had to coach over Harry the Machine a few years ago.
Sure.
Caitlyn wants to be hitting on these tower plates ASAP. Like, the whole point of Caitlyn, that we came to the conclusion of, maybe things have changed over the years, but I definitely feel like if you have Caitlyn in the game, you want to knock off as many tower plates in the game as possible. It's not even about necessarily, executing every tower before 14, but as long as you can strip away that gold, right? It's so valuable to getting you to that first item spike quicker, then that's what you want to achieve. And like you say, just that, the pressure of that gank alone, only necessarily just got the flash, right? And he's back again. Just getting that flash just stops that wave from crashing in. Stops AaB from being able to consistently shove the wave in. And now this is maybe a tower dive in the offing if Verdant really wanted. But I think the fact that, they get the ward cleared out, AaB then get the ward cleared again, it will also give Bombast the opportunity to eventually get down here in time, because this is a very slow wave stack.
Yeah, so it's probably there's going to be 2 waves here. Of course, there's about a 20 CS discrepancy right now for Reaper, because he's going to have a lot of minions to pick up here as these minions come crashing in. Have to see how many they can pick up under the tower, whether they can hold it a little bit further away, but they're not going to have that chance. And that's going to be the easy reset right now for Verdant, as Rubery and crew going to have to clear up this wave best they can.
But again, being down in CS is just not where you want to be in a Caitlyn lane.
Not at all.
Great stuff from Verdant in the early stages. Not just Sybil, but Draconium and Winter for piloting out the advantage onwards, as Draconium, Zerka Greaves plus a longsword is what his first base will be. We'll see how he gets to use those component items for now. As Ericsson getting a lot of mid lane priority. Blueben hasn't really needed so far to have mid lane priority to get a move off to the side lane, but beg your pardon? Minion Dematerializer was incredibly just burnt through, so it seems like that's achieved its job.
Absolutely, and the thing is, with the changes to Ahri's Q, where she got she went to 0.45 AP ratio on both sides of the Orb of Deception. That means you got it bumps the true damage, but it's also basically you end up at a 0.9 AP ratio. I've got this info all from Nymera, who's a big Ahri aficionado, if you've not realized by now. But he's basically, what that means is I think you can clear backline minions at like level 7 or something now, which is such a big difference because it used to be so much later for Ari. So now with the minion dematerializers burned early to match Rise's early shove, at this point, it doesn't matter. You both Q once with it, and the wave is gone. So you're both kind of clearing at the same kind of rate at this point. So your job with the materializers has kind of been done, and Rise's kind of advantage that he was supposed to be playing with that shove is kind of somewhat neutralized.
Yeah, exactly. So great stuff from Ericsson to have a in-depth understanding of the matchup. To go for the rune choice, of course. Rune choice, a very, very hot topic at the moment.
Oh, yes.
As well, inside the league community. If you take a look at the inventories of Tun and Winter, then the biscuits is what exactly.
I
the
personally like
conversation.
baked confection, so like just for the sheer ability to eat cookies, I quite like that thought.
Yeah, I
So,
mean,
that's my
they
thinking.
make really nice noise when you consume them.
That's
So
true, they do actually. The only thing is, I've done this once before. It's like, I'm gonna feed the Poro on AaB, and wait, no, that's biscuits. What am I doing? You complete numpty. Because that's your trinket. Yeah, because I'm not necessarily. Despite having like 2 degrees and former teacher, like I am actually not as smart as I like to think I am, and I do dumb things like that.
And speaking of being smart, this is a pretty smart angle to try and attack Valkyrie here.
Thanks through tri-brushes. We've seen that a couple times this game, and once again on the inverted side of the map, it'll be a flash blown as a result of a jungle gank through that particular bush.
Yeah, but no blood drawn so far. Only really threats of death. Verdant on this bottom side. Since that level 2, it just feels like Ribery and Tun just haven't been able to find their groove. Let's try and get the wave consistently shoving in, and Winter and Draconium, they've just had full control of this bottom side.
It's always sad, but you're looking at Caitlyn realizing she's down 10 to 20 CS, hasn't been able to get the wave into the enemy turret at all. And all the while, you've got a Cull on the Gnar. That's great. They'll get to Hullbreaker a bit early because they've had like very little attention. But honestly, for me, Verdant feeling incredibly happy with how this game is going right now. They're up 1,000 gold. Herald has spawned. You can see Sybil's on it right now. Ericsson's roamed over. The Sork Pen boots are in inventory. So I'm feeling with the Cataclysm available for this Jarvan alongside the Spirit Rush Ferrari. If this Caitlyn is shoved under tower, I think there's a bot lane dive accruing.
Yeah, I think especially now with the Herald being picked up, it just, puts a little more emphasis on finally unleashing some kind of roam onto a side lane. Ericsson trying to hold the wave. Did he get that last one? No, he just about dies. Unfortunate, but yeah, Herald secured by Sybil and co. Very good setup all in all. And even on the bottom side right now, Draconium doing a very good job of just respecting the potential of this wave being insta-shoved into Dove. So goes and picks up the Grump for his troubles, and will still be able to catch basically all of this wave.
Because of the wave control they had as well, Caitlyn didn't even get to take turret plates while the Herald was going down. So that's like a massive deal as well. Normally you expect 1 to 2 plates to go down as the opportunity cost of claiming the Herald. So
I mean, that's
the
the
CS
thing,
company hasn't changed. That's a huge deal.
Actually, I want to talk on that point, because I think that's kind of the expectation of a cross map, right?
Yeah.
Is you will, when you go for Herald, you might lose a play or 2, but if you do the setup correctly, you don't actually end up losing too much here, as Gunkus forced them defensively now.
But Valkyrie's popped the World Ender in trade, and Gnar might be in a spot of bother with the mini coming through, but does manage to get enough of a slow to prevent Valkyrie going any further. No flash, of course, from the earlier gank. And here comes Sybil. Bobus will be around, and there could be a bit of a scuffle accruing indeed, but gonna get charged on. Of course, the Defiance comes out from Karma to try and speed the Hecarim along, but decide against too much more. Instead, they'll just leave this one well alone. No Herald popped as yet. First Drake went to Verdant earlier as a result of kind of some resets. Second Dragon spawning in a minute and a half. So I wonder whether Sybil might just hold on to that Herald to try and buy priority when that Dragon spawns.
Yeah, it could end up being a priority Herald here. I would personally like to see it put into Draconium, just because, the 1-to-1 lead he has at the moment into Ribery is so...
pretty nasty.
Yeah, it's monstrous. Especially, I mean, in the context of it's a Caitlyn lane too, it just makes it even worse. So I think growing the gold lead there would definitely be very beneficial.
So I'm curious to what you think about this. So I'll throw this out at you. So I'm gonna throw some old school analytical talking points. There was a thing around Jace before the item change, but basically said, look, you need to get 2 plates on this champion or you've failed. And that kind of changed a little bit with Jace when you kind of realize, wait, at 3 items, he just chunks everybody out to like no HP, and that kind of doesn't hold true anymore. But there's that similar kind of U-shaped power spike. Like really strong early on, then you kind of fall down a bit, then you hit 3 items and suddenly you're a monster again. And that's kind of true of Caitlyn, I feel, as well, where like really strong early lane, then you're kind of not great until you've got 3 items. And considering the 2 turret plates haven't gone down, that's kind of used to be the kind of the mark that you've done well in lane, is this Caitlyn going to be in serious trouble? Do you think that holds true here? That like you should have got more plates than this, you said?
I think so, because the issue with Caitlyn is, you know, in that sort of mid-game, that sort of, like you say, on what should be her power spikes, she wants to provide poke effectively, but who's she poking if she's not going to be fed? Because the frontliners are going to be absolutely monstrous here. Valkyrie, Sybil, Winter, are going to be very, very tanky and relatively difficult to chunk out.
Plates? She's just lost 4. They're going to realm warp in, but there's a lantern through, flash to extend the difference. Borbus has got Ghost, they can still continue charging in, Onslaught of Shadows, but he's very deep. He's now going to have to back away. Winter going to take an ace in the hold of the face, but will stay alive. Charm goes wide. Dragon has been started, but those are some big ticket ultimates. All of them down right now, actually, for the side of AaB, as it was used top side as well as the Gnar. And now it's, they've got a lot of R buttons to use. They're going to go forward for a Cataclysm. Spirit Rush come through. The resets for Reze and Crab Rave. The whole team is gone for AaB. Over the wall with a flash to secure another as well for the Ahri. Reset again on the ultimate, can continue hunting, continue prowling for more souls, more essence to consume. It's Tun and Blueben who will back away, but it will leave this tower out to dry. Draconium will secure it. 2 kills, Dragon and first turret, all going Verdant's way.
Yeah, Verdant playing that one out excellently. AaB, I wouldn't even say it's desperation just yet, but you can tell they really wanted to get something back for losing all those tower plates. And Bobash just goes too far, too deep, not able to really achieve too much. And because so many ultimates were blown in an attempt to at least find a pick onto Verdant, Verdant were playing defensively. Their ultimates weren't used in combat with the exception of Winters on the box when Bobash went in. So Moonlight Vigil, Spirit Rush, the Cataclysm, which actually started off the fight from Sybil. The ultimate economy was just in Verdant's favor. Because of the overstep, Verdant get just about everything. And this replay is going to effectively highlight everything I just said. So go ahead, Sam.
I mean, like, basically, I know it's new raid season in WoW, but I don't think you need to yell Leroy Jenkins quite this loud in Bobbers. The turnaround for Verdant is just exquisite. Great Cataclysm, but you kind of said it. All the tools have kind of been blown already, so it's free reign for Verdant to just style on him.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing's stopping Verdant from going forward once those ultimates are blown. And, I mean, even if you look at it one-to-one, you know, Realm Warp is not really a combat ultimate. They've already blown the Hecarim ultimate. Ribri tried to execute Winter. You're looking at 3 very, very explosive ultimates, which can provide a whole bunch of damage. And now Draconium could maybe get 1 more plate, but I think the fact that he doesn't have Calibrum in inventory might mean that he's not quite going to be
close. 2 seconds, not quite! Oh, that's 2 games in a row. Disaster. Gunkus about to hit Mega and Sybil around. I don't think he's really going to step forward. Good death center. So, and of course, the Glacial Slowfield will pick a lot of damage. He's just gone. Good God. Kraken Slayer does its work.
Yeah, exactly. Moonlight Vigil Ultimate as well, just to stack on that extra burst damage. And yeah, Verdant just free roam on the map right now. Blueben doesn't have Realm Warp, so he's not able to get, you know, to places first. He's not able to cheat that priority, right? Over all of the terrain. Ericsson, very happy to come to these side lanes and assist. And now Draconium, very, very fed. Actually, Reed, can I take a look at the... Yeah, you already know, because 2.3k gold is the difference between Draconium and Ribri right now. And even if you look at other places on the map, it's just 1k in the mid lane.
Yeah, 1k mid lane, like, so much difference. Like, the only place that's relatively even, it feels like right now, is the top lane. That's it. And that's because the color's cashed in.
Yeah, even if the cold gold wasn't there, I don't think.
It would be like 1,000 gold there as well.
Yeah, exactly. So, AaB really are bleeding across the map at the moment. 5.5k, the difference between these 2 teams. Now, we're early enough, or late enough rather, that of course objective bounties have come in. But I just don't know where AaB will find the priority to ever get onto any of these, let alone neutrals, but Verdant's own objectives themselves. It just feels like a really, really big hole at the moment. Verdant playing really well.
Yeah, honestly, but Bobbas might be looking to punish Onslaught of Shadows, but the Dark Passage blocks the space, teleports coming through, and I think this is just a play that's doomed. And Root comes through because of the trap, but Ribéry gonna have to try and get out. They might even think about diving this, but okay, you get a little bit more there than perhaps you needed to. Verdant, a little bit too quick on the trigger fingers there to try and turn that around. Of course, not going to lose too much for it aside from the teleport from Valkyrie. Wanted to get involved, please, but actually, Gunkus now might be in trouble himself. Sybil is here, going to try and make something of it. Charm crunched away from. He'll get out of dodge there in the bot lane.
Gets
So
out
that-
dodge.
ooh. Winter was coming, but they heeded the warning, and so it did come through.
There you go.
No response to that pun. I appreciate that.
No, because I'm so used to you throwing out these puns now that
Yes,
they are like,
that's fair.
I just appreciate them silently because they are so frequent.
It's like I need to like clearly that's like my one casting gimmick, just the puns at all given moments. Like, what have I got? You know that meme of the bird with like the cards? Like that's the one joke. Like, what do I do?
No, but genuinely, you're like an encyclopedia of references. It's genuinely kind of great. As a Civil and Ericsson, they're on a bit of a flank, but Gunkus has found this out and he's about to mega, but no ultimate.
No ultimate quite. No, it's a short cooldown, but it's not going to be quite short enough, and we'll dodge away from the Everfrost, but a little less found. But it does mean that with warding off the potential flanking option, Verdant get the mid lane turret. They've got all 3 outer turrets. They're up 5,500 gold, as we said. Dragon spawning in 10 seconds. They'll be up at Soul Point, and AaB, I need to see you manage to stall out some way, somehow for 10 minutes, because at the moment you have nothing to play for.
Yeah, but this is the thing. Like you say, you call it out in that sentence. What do they have to play for? Because, I mean, what, you're looking at maybe Ryze scaling, but if Ryze is ever in range of a lot of these champions at the same time, I don't think he can really stand up to the amount of damage that's there, right? Effectively just the only scaling damage threat that's there for AaB, because this Caitlyn was put so far behind, because she's not going to be, you know, at that 2-item mark by the time a third dragon would typically be spawning in the next couple of minutes. It's already been taken because Verdant have been so dominant and so quick to take down these objectives.
I'm looking at Borbas's inventory, and he's literally only now on that back completed his mythic. Like, the Hecarim is behind farm against a Jarvan. Like, that should not have happened.
Yeah, that alone, like, as the Hecarim, speaking from a jungler's, you know, experience here, if you're not going to necessarily find a lot of plays, especially as Hecarim into the likes of a Jarvan that's going to be ganking very early on, you have to at least be up in CS. The fact that Sybil's managed to weasel his way a bit of a CS lead. Obviously, the neutral objectives do count towards that, so it's a little bit skewed, right? If you want to remove away the Heralds and the Dragons, then yeah, sure, they're closer to parity. But even then, even then, it's like, yeah, it just feels really bad.
You should be expecting Hecarim to be like kind of hard farming at that point. Like, he does clear pretty quickly, especially once you can just sort of spam out your Q at every camp. You can do a pretty good job of clearing a little more rapidly than Jarvan, at least as far as I understand the matchup. And please correct me if I'm wrong there, but like, that is a problematic point. You're looking at the objective leads, the gold leads, the compositional leads at this point, with where the things just haven't worked out with the Caitlyn.
Exactly. And if you was to shine the light away from AaB, what do Verdant do next to continue this absolute onslaught? It would effectively just be looking at those tier 2s, securing pressure around this top side.
Oh, Blueben.
Yeah,
There's a Cataclysm. The yellow Demacia comes out and Blueben has to flash away, wants nothing to do with that city state. They're against magic, and he doesn't want to be chained up. Very reasonable. And gets out of there. But it does come at the cost of his flash, and that's kind of what you like to see from Verdant, just controlling a quadrant of the enemy jungle and saying you don't get any of that farm. Just denying all those micro advantages, all the additional gold you get from it.
Yeah, now this is where, you know, for Bobash, you start to feel bad, right? Because as a Hecarim, now you're not getting any CS, and you don't really, you know, you're not afforded any opportunity to find any engages for your team to follow up on, because, quite frankly, a lot of your team just doesn't really want to follow up on it. Now
Blueben. Oh, I think he might just be blue in the face. They tried to predict the walk away, but he does not bite. So that will force a teleport out of Gunkus, and Verdant will retreat. They will look for the pick. They didn't quite get it, but they do get the teleport. And considering Baron is now an option for the next few minutes, potentially, and you've got the split pusher of Valkyrie, who is got some free time in the bot side, and actually, never mind that, I was talking bigger picture when we need to go a little bit more micro. Orba's coming over the wall. That's a teleport in as well. Winter taken low, trying to flash out, but should surely fall to the renewal. In comes Valkyrie's popped the world ender. Blueben is now stuck in the back end. Remember, though, flash on the rise. Not quite dead to the Gore Drinker. He's getting out of dodge. Big no, and that's going to be the shutdown onto Sybil. And I think Verdant have just overstepped. That's 2 really big picks. Just too over-eager in the jungle, and a great just like pulling of the trigger from Bobas.
Yeah, I mean, we just said Bobas hadn't really been afforded a good opportunity to find an engage. Now he finally is, and AaB are able to capitalize on it. Follow up, Gunkus as well. Fantastic timing to fortunately have that Mega Gnar available. Nas Sybil, and I couldn't quite catch who else it was. I think it was Ericsson into the wall. And the follow-up was just about there from Ribery to find some of the execution damage. I think the kill credit went over to Gunkus himself. And like you say, Verdant, just a brief overstep. It's not even too far because they've been pressuring on that side of the map for quite a while. Just more that AaB Bobas finds the angle to actually make this a punish. As here we go. Overstepping on the Gromp, trying to push them deeper into their jungle. Yes, Winter.
Onium's not firing. That's the
Yeah.
big deal. Look at the top end of that scream. Only now does he get to auto. And honestly, I thought Bluepen was dead here, but he just about survives the Gore Drinker. And then Gunkus, great play, as he said.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Honestly, if Valkyrie has the opportunity to continue to walk forward with a slightly longer time on that World Ender, I think the resets can just continue to come through there for Verdant. So the fact that Bluepen's able to walk out of that one somehow, some way, with 0 HP, I think saves AaB a lot of additional hurt on the back end of finding those 2 picks.
But what did it actually earn them, is my question now, Jamada, because doesn't get them a
Yeah.
Dragon, doesn't get them any towers, didn't get them Baron, and actually all it did was get them a couple kills and, like, they traded teleport. Like, I'm not sure they even really burnt a flash there, because Sybil was already down here, so you're not even really got a summoner advantage there. So how much did that play actually earn them, is my question.
At best, and it's a bit of a reach, item parry with the exception of the AD carry slot,
Oh.
because that's all it really granted them.
Oh.
If you think about it,
I
don't
hate
think
to
they
call
had the
reality
items
checks
for
like that, but it might be hurting them more now as Bobas goes down. The Onslaught of Shadows is just a charge on into the Afterlife, and now Valkyrie in the back end is 1v2ing the bot lane as Ericsson kills off Gunkus, and they're just doing no damage. That is literally negative damage. Infernal Chains land. Tun won't quite snap back. The turret is doing more damage than the Caitlyn.
Yeah. I think that pretty much does enough. Obviously, as well, what does make it feel bad, Aatrox in World Ender with no anti-heal. He's healing for like 300, 400 per sweet spot hit. It does look very, very obnoxious, but Verdant, they're going to get the soul on the bottom side. Sybil soloing that one out, and they should very easily pick up this Baron as well. AaB, it just feels like nothing left in the tank. They weren't really able to play through Ribri and Tun. And the game plan just wasn't really there, to be honest with you. It just felt like there was nothing to really play through in the solo lanes. Once that Karma
Honestly,
Caitlyn name fell through.
Yeah, honestly, that initial gank, for all that it got only the flash and Rubri didn't have the back, the fact they lost control of the wave, the fact they couldn't touch the minions, and it led to a big CS discrepancy and XP discrepancy, it kind of felt over from them. We'll get a replay, and you can sort of see they want to contest for this dragon. They were feeling okay after that last play, but it just falls apart in an instant after Bobas gets caught.
Yeah, it does indeed. Bobas, I mean, actually just engages on this. Even from the vision. Oh!
Oh, that's dirty. That's dirty.
Okay, I've done that before. It does feel really bad if you're in your charging state and you're devastating charge and you accidentally
Not very
auto-attack that reward.
devastating. Yeah, the only person devastated is you. Like, it's just a devastated charge. Like, you just, the charge is actually your bank statement, as someone's charged you for, like, you know, parking ticket you've forgotten about. It's like, oh no, this is awful.
That's
yeah.
the worst. As Verdant, full control, Baron, Soul. Now it's Cloud Soul, and whilst typically I'd say Cloud Soul not the highest value, Valkyrie's gonna love it, Ericsson's probably gonna love it, just for a little bit of extra repositioning, holding onto the AaB, maybe, you know, an extra second longer, it gives you the opportunity to go over the wall. I mean, hell, even Draconium, if he's able to get into range to auto attack, gonna be just fine with having that Soul available. And if they so need it in 4.5 minutes time to retreat to the Elder Soul, I certainly know who I'd have my money on to win out that Elder fight.
Yes, I think that is completely fair. Draconium right now with the Calibrum up has got good siege weapons. They're shoving down 2 lanes. Valkyrie is the split push option as Ericsson and Sybil play kind of marauding wanderers between the jungle. Draconium shoving 1 lane at the top of your screen right now. Teleport flank those coming through. This is going to be it. They're going to try and find something, but already the AD carry is dead. Gunkus doesn't get a hold of Draconium in trade, and it's a whitewash, a disaster, a cataclysm in name, a cataclysm by ability. Bobas is knocked up, and he's on a World Ender skin, which is ironic considering the Aatrox is on the other team. It'll show me exactly who's the real end of the world. It's the end of the game. And Verdant stamp it out, it feels, from the early ganks.
Yeah, Verdant, very clinical this game, but it has to be said, only into AaB, unfortunately. But if they have to make some kind of late playoff run, it has to start here. And this is definitely, I won't quite call it a statement game, but
it was a necessary statement in its own right. And I know what you mean by statement. I really do, because we needed to see some life from this team. If this game had been close, if it had been sloppy, we would have had more questions. But a clean game here gives us some hope.
Yeah.
And even if they don't necessarily make playoffs, it gives us a little bit more like, okay, well, what about next split at least? What
Yeah.
about if they end up in relegations, they might be a harder task than was perhaps anticipated.
Exactly, and even then, that's the key word, right? Relegations, avoiding relegations, making sure that
Yeah.
they can catch up to the teams just above them that aren't quite in that clump, playing for playoffs. Making sure that they just don't end up in relegations is honestly, the bare minimum here for this roster. You can't finish bottom two with the expectations that you came into the split having. So unfortunately for AaB on the opposite side, looking more and more like a reality here for them. But maybe they can scrap something together. But again, it's Verdant that were the one team above them. They're now 2 wins above them. It's a monumental task. But fortunately, I think their runner schedule is okay for it. But still, they're going to be playing against some pretty tough teams.
Well, if it was going to start anyway, it had to start here. A good win from Verdant. We're going to cut to a quick break. When we come back, we'll have some interviews, so don't go anywhere. Someone maybe get a drink or something. Refresh yourself. But this is the time for snacks. But you're going to be back to see those interviews because they're going to be interesting. I'm going to be doing them. Why wouldn't they be? See you then.